So in this episode, I'm joined by Jordan Relfe of LifeProven. LifeProven are a really interesting small business based in Canary Wharf, a team of 18, and they were ahead of the curve. They set up a consultancy that combined ESG consultancy with traditional project and cost management consultancy around 6 years ago. So they were ahead of the curve, and now they've hit the sweet spot given where we are in the market, the drive around retrofit, net zero, ESG. A really fascinating discussion. And I think what Jordan and Adam, his co-owner, are trying to build here is a business where, with efficiencies, with intelligent use of technology, they're going to create a very small business that can punch well above their weight in terms of their fees per fee earner compared to maybe a traditional consultancy that's perhaps relied more on, for want of a better phrase, a bums on seats model. So I think you're going to get a lot out of this about where Jordan sees the industry going. These guys are really ahead of the curve for the size of their business, working with some really interesting blue chip organizations. So today I am joined by Jordan Relfe of LifeProven. Jordan, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for having me.
No, absolute pleasure. So, Jordan, can you just tell us who LifeProven are, I guess kind of headcount, what the business is focused on?
Yeah, sure. So LifeProven I co-founded 6 years ago with a colleague, Adam Hines. The business is a strategic real estate advisor to investment funds, asset managers, developers, and corporates. And we support those clients deliver, create resilient real estate, which kind of optimizes climate improvement, environmental improvement, social impact, and ultimately, more importantly, the commerciality, financial performance of their real estate.
And so probably even 6 years ago, that was, what did I put it? It was just developing, wasn't it? There was a lot of talk around sustainability maybe 10 to 6 years ago. So, but you were probably still quite innovative 6 years ago, whereas now you're bang on point, if that makes sense. You've timed it well, I guess.
More luck than judgment, I think. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm chartered QS by background. Yeah. And yeah, absolutely. 6 years ago, I was working to deliver a scheme for a developer. I was client side. And we just started to see, Adam and I, the kind of trajectory that real estate was forming more of a stakeholder-led approach rather than a shareholder-led approach. And by that, we were seeing the forward funder that we were talking to was asking questions around climate, around energy efficiency, and the university that we're trying to get a NOMS agreement with was asking about student mental health and well-being. Right. And we started to get asked a lot of questions that we hadn't been asked before. And it really kind of struck a chord with us that actually this is probably the future of how real estate is being appraised and developed. And it was such an early stage that that was kind of the forming of our idea behind the business.
Perfect. And so what's the head count in the business?
We're about 18 at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a pretty good growth spurt in the last 18 months, 2 years. We've had a strategy to kind of have organic growth, stable scale has been our motto. We really wanted to work out where we sit in the market. And I think what you said around where we are now is on point. But for a while it's taken, I guess, our ethos to how real estate should be appraised and delivered and costed ultimately towards where the industry is ready and our clients are ready. And I think that's kind of really kind of settled over the last 2 years, and that's probably been a big part of why we've had a good growth in that period. Yeah,
good, excellent. And what disciplines is that 18 staff made up of?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the company's structured between kind of two buckets. So we have very much an ESG kind of innovative part of the business, and then a very technical, traditional project cost management. I'll probably just give you an overview of our services. We kind of look strategically at, with asset managers or investment managers, at their portfolio. We look at the long-term resilience of their funds, and then we're able to then drop in technically within the ESG realm to do a lot of energy modelling, certification work. Okay. We support clients look at the technicalities of what they need to do to bring their assets up to a standard that can actually meet future legislative changes or consumer change. And then we have the ability through a project cost management to then actually implement those initiatives that we've strategized and then delved into the detail of. And then lastly, data management. So we do a lot of data capture for clients like BlackRock, for Urban Splash, for general projects where we're looking at the long-term performance of their buildings through data, and then use that to then guide decisions. So it's a real blend of people in the business. I'd say it's 50-50 between ESG and project cost management. And that disciplines can be data analysts, those purely on certification side, energy modelers, and then, PM, QS team as well.
It's also quite a niche specialist group of people for such a small consultancy. So you both had to have real vision at the time, I guess, to say this is where we, as you alluded to there, that where we see the industry going, and we think we're going to invest in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw, probably because I was client side for a while, the frustrations of sustainability to clients and other consultants, and it seemed, as everyone has seen it in the past, a bit of a box tick. You'd bring a sustainability consultant in through planning, through design. No one really cared what they were saying, what they were doing, and we really wanted to create a model that was truly end-to-end, so that we could really understand what a fund was looking to do and how that then translated to, well, how is my contractor delivering exactly what we need that fund to do. So we've really tried to assemble a team of people that can look at the entire life cycle of a building. And if one person can't, they've got a team there to kind of support and help them through that. And that's just kind of evolved and grown as clients have asked us more of us, really, and asking us to do way more than what we had been before. So it's a bit like in the past you'd get an energy model, not putting shade on M&E consultants, but they're very technical, and it's work that they prepare will be very detailed. A lot of the time you get a report that's only facing to a design team, whereas a client might pick that up and go, well, how do I use this? How do I explain this to my investors? What's this going to do for my occupier? And we kind of saw an area and a gap there to go, actually, this information needs to be way more digestible. Your QS needs to understand how to cost it. Your PM needs to understand how to procure it. Your client needs to understand how to put this into its operating model. And that's really where we've pushed into.
Good. And in terms of where the future is going, it's quite interesting, isn't it? We've got a lot of, there's a lot of, I guess, geopolitical stresses around this. There's the commercial reality of it, and then there's also the desire for a business to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Where do you think all that's going? Do you think it's just, that it's going to continue? That businesses want to continue to look at their assets and make sure that they're fit for purpose going forward.
I think, in truth, ESG has kind of become a bit swollen in its approach, and it's become a bucket that people just throw everything into. And I think where we are at the moment, where viability is still a real challenge for assets, and obviously I think it all starts at the capital, the funding stage. Trying to get schemes off the ground is extremely difficult. I think it's putting a sharpening and a focus on what's actually driving impact, resilience, long-term value. And I think it's probably become a good thing that schemes don't just get a £200,000 green wall put on the outside because someone said we should do that as an ESG initiative, but rather go, okay, we really need to focus on employee or occupier health and well-being. We need to focus on the thermal efficiency of the building. We need to look at creating resilience in its infrastructure to where it's being served. And I think it's naturally falling into a sharpening of commerciality behind it. And I think, in the past couple of years, you'd see, this is an ESG compliant building type stuff that would have every certification under the sun thrown at it. And it's not driving value. It's not driving those things. So for us, I think we're seeing just way more focus on what's actually mattering, and you can measure and disclose and explain to investors, explain to lenders, explain to your customers, this is exactly what this building is doing and why and how it benefits you. And I think those geopolitical issues, we always say macro issues are constantly changing. The micro response is legislation through MEES, or it might be Building Safety Act. They're always playing catch up to address some of those macro challenges. I think then on the ground it's navigating those, and those challenges, when we're in a hyper reactive world and industry, and new fads, new technologies are always coming in, that we're always trying to be forecasting what is going to add value and resilience to clients and their portfolios. And I think it's only going to probably become harder, and I think that's why the focus should be on actual impact and risk resilience, not a fad of we'll just do whatever we can to make this look good from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, and it stands to reason that a lot of like a lot of the growth in saying the kind of, I guess, aligned renewable space, full stop, is now being driven actually by a lot of companies recognising the commercial value of it, as opposed to feeling that they have to tick a box.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we just looked at a scheme recently, and a client they prepared a snapshot for their communications to the market. This is what we've done. And they said, we've put solar panels on the roof. And it's kind of like, you need to reposition that to say that through the introduction of renewables to our building, we've reduced energy consumption by X. Yeah. This is what we've done to create long-term. We've reduced our service charge by Y. Those sorts of things and I agree, it's a re-shifting of the narrative to what it actually gives and what it actually does. And I think, to your point, like PVs is a massive part of that strategy.
Yeah, perfect. So 18 now, what's the growth plans for the business?
I think the plan is to consistently grow. We've had an idea around sort of 3 to 4 hires a year.
Okay.
Very much dependent on the work and the profile of our work. A lot of our work is retainer based, so we're afforded an element of resilience to our forecasting what we can do and hire. I think project cost management work is still the horizon of that work is still quite short. Okay. And we've spoken about the challenges of schemes coming to market. But we see the business kind of being at its best at around 40 to 50 people. I think where we have the ability to cover a lot of ground for clients to work more across Europe than we already are, but not to lose touch of being that sort of niche bespoke consultancy. We're privately owned, with every intention to stay that way. That's something that we're really keen to do. The ethos and culture that we've created is something we're really guarded about, very careful about who we bring into the company, and that they are willing to pull in that vision as well. So we're happy to slow things down to avoid just growing for the sake of growing, really.
Yeah, and that's a good number to aim for 40 to 50. I think some of the challenge businesses, you get to a stage where you start at your stage now, 18 people, everybody knows you. When you start maybe getting much beyond 50, it starts to become more of a challenge, and at the very least, then the culture and the dynamics of the business have to evolve with that, and that can become a challenge in itself. So
and I think going back to like the vision of the company and why we started, we've sort of become a really innovative business, but we're really grounded in traditional values of what a real consultant used to be. I probably sound quite old saying that, but a big frustration we had when we started the company is consultancy has become about preparing the thing that you've been asked to do without any consideration for what does that mean, how is it adding value, is that giving what the client needs. And when we were client side, you'd get sent a cost plan from the QS or PM at the time, and you'd say, well, how do I adjust it to meet the development appraisal? We need to look at options to make the budget more efficient. And you'd say, well, I've done my cost plan. If you want it updated, then that's when you talk about an updated fee. And for us, it's about always saying what does this actually give? That document is just a vehicle to make a decision or do something else. And I think we've really wanted to go back to what the traditions of cost management were, to say, well, how do you maximize your budget? How do you add way more value without losing the benefits of a project? Or if you've created something for a client, how do they then implement it? What's the next stages that they need to go through? And we're very careful to not drop that on a client and say, well, if you want anything more, then we need to talk about the next stage of the fee. We're kind of like, if you're happy that we've done what you needed, then we can stop type stuff, within reason, obviously. So I think, we're really keen to keep that kind of, or go back to that traditional element where it's not a blame game or push to someone else. It's like, we take full responsibility for that type of work and what we're going to deliver.
And I think there's probably been an evolution in the consultancy world in that regard, that there's more of a, not it's necessarily the right phrase, but, you need to have more skin in the game, and you need to maybe provide, say, for example, in terms of cost management, maybe there's been an evolution from cost management or cost reporting to more, providing more of a, let's say, commercial management led service where, like you say, you're committing to the outcome for the client rather than just reporting on the costs. It's a very different mentality.
Yeah, completely. And I think the industry has and probably is in that space a bit too much, especially when times are difficult and margins are tight. It's easy to just say, well, you asked me to do a cost plan against the design and we've done that. If you wanted to go in, that's the job. That's what you asked me to do. Whereas actually you asked me to test the viability of this project, squeeze the budget, make sure it's the most efficient use of it to make that money go as far as it can. And that extends through everything. And I think we see consultancy pushing back in that space, especially where technology is coming in. It's going to be way more about analysing the data that you have available to give greater insight based on experience.
Yeah, definitely. That's probably a good segue into probably the next question is how do you see tech affecting the consultancy landscape?
It's a good question. I think tech, certainly, we've been grappling with this about what AI is going to do with certainly cost management is probably our biggest question that we have. And real estate every project is unique, every stakeholder is unique. There is not one building project that is the same. Yeah. And I think that's going to present a unique challenge to how technology can be adopted in certainly in the delivery cycle. I think where we're operating at fund portfolio data capture, I think there's huge scope for automation, data capture to make it more efficient. But I think it's only going to make a sharpening of what consultancy actually does, and I think that will drive kind of a greater role to advisory. What does this data now do for us? You can have greater coverage over benchmark cost data, maybe appraising risks on projects based on climate activities or funding issues, or all those kind of external factors that influence a project. I think you can have way more information at your fingertips, and I think the role of cost manager, project manager is only going to become probably more important to say, well, how do we use this information? Yeah. And I think, real estate is so behind other industries. It always has been. Yeah. The liability structures of, clients wanting a separate PM, a separate QS, they want, PI, they want it very clean and clear. And I think that's going to take a long time to catch up, especially if a QS has used a piece of AI to create a cost plan. Actually, that in itself creates problems, and I think that creates an issue in PI market to understand how do you rely on that information. So we're excited by it. I think it's only going to make things better. I think it's going to be a challenge for some of the larger players where you probably don't need as many people in the team as you probably once had. But I think the quality of people will only increase.
Yeah, and it's an interesting challenge, isn't it? Because exactly that, the size of the team, there's a whole question mark, isn't there, about I think there's some statistic out there that I reckon that a third of entry level jobs have disappeared since ChatGPT. I do think there's probably a question mark about cause and correlation there, and there's probably more to the underlying data than that. But of course, it is going to change, and arguably, people may be able to be more efficient with less of a headcount. So there could be an argument that you're going to see a growth in really small, niche, technically driven, intelligent consultancies, like hopefully what you're trying to grow at LifeProven and start to grow.
Yeah, I'd hope so. It's like interesting statistic. A professor we worked with early days still advises us now, Professor Brendan Stubbs. He published an article recently around the use of ChatGPT in cognitive memory behaviour. Yeah. If you use it, you don't retain the information that you've punched in, whereas if you are actively writing it, thinking it. So I think that's where I think you're going to see a greater improvement of people, the top consultants, people as those resource that are able to use tech but are also, highly functioning, proactive. So I think it's going to be a unique blend, but that's definitely where we see the growth of our business is maybe being able to operate with 50 people, but be able probably to be performing at a consultancy, it might be at 200 or something, if we can be as efficient as possible in those traditional probably roles and functions that were crunching numbers or measurement. And I think that's where you're going to see, if you can put a suite of documents into whatever software it might be and give you a measure within half an hour, which might have taken 2 weeks traditionally taking off, then actually those benefits only benefit a client, they'll only benefit the viability of projects. And you'll see those fees, I think, where you might be doing reporting that is analysing all that information. And the client goes, I need that liability on the back of you telling me this information to make a decision. So I think it's going to be a slow burn, I think, but it will happen. As a PropTech Connect, we mentioned this earlier. Someone's saying that innovation is outstripping implementation, and there's so much innovation in the market, but people just cannot implement it. They're not ready to. Systems or processes in companies aren't ready for it, and I think that's probably a good reflection of what we're going to see. Certainly, with comparison to other industries.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a really fascinating time because there is a lot of innovation. There's a lot of new tech products coming to market. Without a doubt, in the prop tech world, there'll be so many that come to market. But the logic to me is that they can't all survive because some are going to win that race and get there first, and others are not. And so I imagine for a client organisation or even a consultancy organisation, you looking at what maybe additional tools you might use. It's a kind of working out which one is to go for, which one is a safe bet, which one's not going to collapse in 2 years' time because they've not got the funding for it.
And that is an interesting conundrum. And I think we've certainly, when we're looking at the business, gone what makes us more efficient operationally first as a company. We've been really guarded around actually understanding our own liability in the use of AI to go, we're not breaching something that we're not aware of. We're trying it out very carefully. We don't use it for clients. We might use elements of AI to check documents for spelling, for QA. It's always a good measure, but we're very careful about actually. We don't want to be a software company. We don't want to be saying we've created this dashboard program or this piece of software that a client can then use. I think that's a market that's saturated, and I think it's, as you say, it's working out, are they the right fit long term? So I think it's it's an interesting space with all of that. And obviously, certainly today at PropTech Connect, you can see just how much is growing and driving in that automation space as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the thing that I think a lot of people are getting confused. There's a lot of people that talk about AI, and it's not AI. It's just clever automation, and there's a difference there between the two. So a lot of people don't really, I think, appreciate in some cases. It's a bit of a catch-all term at the moment is AI.
And I'd say 99.9% of people don't know what AI is. Yeah. And I probably put myself in that bucket as well. Yeah. And we all know ChatGPT and its benefits, but actually I think understanding, you're putting in, could be confidential information into a cloud system. Where's that gone? Where's it going? That's being relied on by others. And I think a lot of it is plugins that you have no control over. And I think that's the bit that real estate loves new stuff until someone gets sued for it and becomes its first case to then say, okay, we can't do that anymore or other. And I think 100%. We'll start to see those things emerge.
Yeah, absolutely will, won't we? Yeah. A lot of legal and insurance challenges ahead with it all, I think, at the end of the day. The whole consultancy world, having a chartered surveyor who's gone through the process of becoming chartered, if they're going to rely on ChatGPT to deliver everything, it's going to be interesting to the extent that I was speaking to somebody the other day at one of the large consultants, and they've got a blanket ban on AI. You can't use AI in a building. That will logically change. I think as people get more used to it, it will evolve and change, or people will build essentially their own internal AIs, probably off the back of one of the main 6 platforms, but still. Yeah. But it is it's a complex landscape that's going to keep changing over the years, I think.
Yeah, and I think the whole model of just how consultants charge their time and hours just multiplied up. How do you then the market start to shift towards actually a cost plan isn't based on number of hours in a week to create with a junior and a senior overseeing. It's now become, it's taken 8 hours. Most of the work's been done in AI and it's now being checked. So it's kind of like, when's the market work out? What is the right rate for that? When do clients then start to work out? So it's definitely an interesting landscape of what's going to be coming up. Yeah.
Especially for large consultancies, because it takes longer time to adjust. They've got cost models that are associated with X number of bodies who would get charged out X day rate in very simple terms. I appreciate there are different consultancy fee models these days, but it still fundamentally comes back to that very basic, and it's based on bums on seats.
Absolutely,
that's going to evolve and change, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So in terms of currently in the business, what is your it's a much used term now, but what is your kind of tech stack internally? What are your team using day to day?
We're pretty traditional in the suite of software we're using. We use Monday.com through project management software as a business operationally. So the whole company runs, and that's even from business development, marketing.
It's a good product. It's a powerful product.
Yeah, it is. And it kind of then falls in CRM into them.
Yep.
We then track our projects, our connections. We then run project programs from that as well. We also run something I've become quite obsessed with early on was the quality assurance of our work. So we run a lot of project checklists through that as well, which can then be kind of collaborative. So you can put notes in, upload documents, just so that we know when we get to gateways, traditional RIBA gateways, we can check off back to something that's quite consistent across every job. Okay, it's a good measure of where we are. Yep. So we use that kind of everyday functionality, and that's even from internal HR function, like holiday requests, expenses logs, everything. So it's all in a great place, and that's worked really well. We're using, in terms of the actual operation of our work in the ESG, we use a lot of Power BI for dashboard creation. We've created a lot of, and this is like Excel online type documents for data capture requests. We use a survey platform for our real estate wellbeing metric. So we don't have a huge kind of tech reliance, but it probably goes back to what I was saying around feeling out carefully, like where are we going with it? And a lot of the time we want to make sure we've built a process that functions and then it works, and then go, right, it might be a little bit clunky, but we understand the whole picture, and then we're starting to then optimize. Can we use AI to scrape publicly available information for maybe a wider ESG report that might look at articles, it might look at what's been published in the industry, just to save on time. But that's not us putting something in. So for the moment, it's pretty light in terms of what we're using.
Yeah, but I agree. It's it's an evolving landscape, isn't it? Yeah. And a lot of these products are so powerful. It's like, just looking at something like Office 365. It has so many tools built into it that probably most organisations are hardly scraping the surface of.
Yeah, I would agree, as
a product. And even I wasn't aware that Monday.com could do all the things you just outlined that you're running all through one business. I think I probably assumed it was, a piece of project management software with, with Kanban charts or Gantt charts through it. But clearly, it sounds like you're running a lot more of the business through that. Yeah,
and we've plugged in, Harvest as a time tracking software. We've plugged in our emails into it and our calendars. So it kind of, and as you say, we've just started scraping the surface of what's possible with it, which has been good for us. It's been, as we've been growing, trying to grow this stuff in parallel so that we've got systems in place to do that. It's worked so far.
Good, excellent. So, am I right in saying you fairly recently moved to Canary Wharf? Is that correct?
Yeah, July. Yeah.
So, what was the thought process with the location?
Well, it was one of our clients' buildings and general projects, and we were aware of it because we capture the data on the building through our ESG reporting, and we just loved the building, the location. Yeah, we looked at probably 4 or 5 different offices, and that was the one we settled on. I think
they're a very cool business. The general projects out there.
Very,
I always keep an eye on them from a kind of social media standpoint, and they're like they're.
They get it.
They look really cool. I imagine they're pretty. Sure, there's a lot more to than that, but they look like a really cool client to work with, I'd imagine.
Yeah, really good, really innovative. Make the right decisions based on what they want to be doing in the market.
Yeah.
And as a landlord, like incredible how they've looked after us, and it's our first dedicated space, which was a big move for us.
Yeah.
We've been co-working up until this point.
Okay.
I think we annoyed the last provider because we sort of take over half a floor with our whole team coming in on an office day. So it kind of felt like probably is now the right time to do that.
Yeah.
But it's been great for us in a very traditional way in getting people back to the office.
Yeah.
The learning by osmosis, just hearing conversations. Can I grab you for 5 minutes? That's invaluable. And
absolutely.
I think that's been forgotten a little bit in terms of, certainly it's, selfishness. Working from home sometimes is great and you've got your own space, but what you can then impart on people coming through probably haven't realised that is available has been great. So we kind of not mandated, but we said Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are office days, and the team have loved it. I think they have that space.
It's culture, isn't it? I think a lot of businesses have realised, without a doubt, as a whole learning piece, and certainly you still learn the most probably through osmosis by listening to other colleagues around you.
Yeah.
But on top of that, it's the culture. I think where a lot of businesses have gone fundamentally wrong is that they've lost a thread on their culture because people just don't see each other regularly enough.
Yeah.
And it's often a lot of stuff about culture is the unspoken stuff rather than the spoken stuff to an extent, rather than policies and rules. It's the unspoken bit, but you only do that by being in the room with each other. Yeah,
and this morning I came in just for a catch-up meeting with one of my colleagues, a project we're working on with Amazon in Munich, and we were like, actually, could you all come around the table with us? Because actually it's helpful to have your input on this conversation, whereas typically you'd go, one team's linked to one person. And actually those sorts of things where you go, now is a good time to all brainstorm this issue together before we go back to a client. And I think they're the things that have fallen away to a degree in the way working culture has become. But yeah, I'm really grateful that the team want to be there, and actually it's a space that they've loved as well.
Good.
And we've been keen to try and make it a space that, just simple stuff like decent coffee machine, you've got a beer fridge, we have great breakout areas, it's easily connected. Those sort of things really matter. And we were in Covent Garden before, which was probably a bit touristy for us, a bit busy, but it feels quite purposeful where we've moved to. So, yeah. And
I presume you've got capacity to keep growing in that office, or?
Yeah, it probably gives us a couple of years run at where we are. Yeah. Awesome. I mean, very, very typical of an agent showing you around, but they showed us the best one first and then said, right, I'll show you the others. So we ended up taking the first one.
Excellent, good.
Yeah, which is good. Yeah.
And because obviously Canary Wharf has gone on a fascinating journey, hasn't it? There's all the debate about some of the big corporates, whether they're staying or going. But interestingly, now coming back to your point, Jordan, I think we are now starting to see more companies waking up to the fact that they want people back in the office. They want to have everyone together.
Well, HSBC are going back to Canary
Yes,
Wharf,
I've heard this.
Which is, because I realised that actually we need a bit more space than what we thought. And funny because Canary Wharf had a bit of an odd reputation in that no one wants to be there, and I think it's obviously become quite resi, but we see it as a really great space, and definitely from the occupiers that own Canary Wharf, American or Asian, they're full up, they're busy. So,
well, and there's an argument it might not be a bad thing for Canary Wharf that there's more residential, because it becomes then more of a community, doesn't it?
Yeah, true.
It's like I love going down to Battersea, and that's still got time to develop yet, because it just almost the community bit hasn't built yet. But when it does, I think it'll be an amazing part of London.
Yeah. Battersea's incredible. Yeah. And that's, as you say, see that only developing and growing.
Yeah. And so, whereas it was, I guess Canary Wharf was just in as a commercial centre, I think if it becomes more of a community space, then that might not be a bad thing that there's more residential now.
Yeah, that's true.
And more people start to live there. I usually ask this at the beginning of the episode, but people are really fascinated how people get into the industry. So how did you end up being a QS? How did that start?
I don't know if I'm a statistic saying this or not, but so I got into real estate through my father.
Right.
So he was head of corporate real estate at ABN AMRO, Dutch bank based out of Bishopsgate. Mm-hmm. And I did some work experience there when I was 15 with a friend. And the week was split up by saying you're going to be doing sort of 3 days on trading floors, and then a day in a post room, and then a day with our internal team who look at the functionality of the building. Mm-hmm. And I kind of just went through the motions of the week. And then as soon as I sat with teammates at 4, they're almost like architects,
right?
Building maintenance, and they were showing me how the building worked, showing me layout changes. I was just hooked. Right. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to work with understanding how buildings go together. Yeah. And then from that, I studied real estate management at Oxford Brookes. Right. Graduated in 2007, which was a pretty naff time in the market to come out and try and find a job in real estate, which is more focused on kind of the operational letting side of the market. And the only thing that was happening was construction sites were still moving. And I applied for a couple of jobs in mainly project management, building surveying, and then I just fell into the QSing because I just became quite fascinated by the numbers and kind of the cost behind everything, and that's how it started, really.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was straight into a QS consultancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a small consultancy called Jackson Rowe, based down in Sussex.
Yeah.
So I worked for them for about 10 years, and then I just became chartered about 5 years into my career. Yeah.
Am I right in saying Jackson Rowe were kind of 50-50 between kind of traditional QS but also dispute, or have I got that wrong?
No, that's exactly right. Yeah. So I did a lot of expert witness work, a lot of adjudications, arbitration work, in line with that traditional work as well. Which is actually a pretty interesting part of my career, really. Did a lot of expert witness, cost management work, which is kind of a different dynamic to the usual. Yeah. And it was quite a great service stream for the company, in that disputes always kind of rose when the market was at quite a negative point. So it kind of kept, as a business model and a good way of operating, really. Yeah.
There's talk that, and again, it's kind of almost you don't hear as much of it, but I'm sure it's continuing in the background. There's talk that, things like blockchain and the like and technology is going to see he's going to naturally see disputes become less of an issue in the industry. Without going on too much of a tangent, do you think there's any logic to that, or do you think that humans will continue to be humans in terms of how we operate?
I think emotions of decisions, and when money's involved, I think you'll always have that. Yeah. You'll always have disputes that sit there. I think you obviously always have contracts that are used to basically govern whether a dispute is actual or not. But I think with the advent of we've spoken about the use of different technologies, and that might then impact on a decision that was made that then could impact viability of something. I think it will evolve. And I think we actually, ironically, still been involved as a business just through the work we've done to help clients with disputes. And it's all driven by the attitude of the other side that we're sort of defending against for a client. And I only see that continuing. I think the information, as you mentioned, like blockchain, would be able to give a really good timestamp on when something happened, but I think it would just push it to something else in reality.
I think there's almost we have too many platforms as well that we all communicate across. I think I saw a post on LinkedIn, and they were talking about I can't remember what the subcontract. It was some kind of subcontractor who had taken a client to court, and it was all based on the a WhatsApp communication. But essentially, the court sided with the subcontractor, saying essentially, written communication. You've contractually agreed that this subcontractor will do this work.
Yes,
and that was over WhatsApp.
That's not what you want. It's an interesting point, actually. Is as a business, we've been really careful through Mondays and others, is to not overload the team with different platforms. So we use Mondays, use Teams, WhatsApp, email. But we've been clear in a communication charter is this is how you use and how you communicate. So you don't WhatsApp about a project, you don't add actions on Mondays, you don't email about it, and you don't send a Teams message. It's like clear, you get information overload, and I think you can see how things go wrong when that does happen. Yeah,
definitely. So do you think, I know you talked about that you both saw that gap in the market, but do you think you knew before then, Jordan, that you wanted to run your own bit? What stage in your career did you think, what, I want to set up my own business?
Question. I always wanted to, but I didn't think it would necessarily happen. I think you have a element of doubt in the back of your mind, and but it got to a point where I rose up. I was really ambitious really quickly. I became a sort of group director at 29 of F3 Group when I was there. And I kind of realised the seat I wanted was where the CEO was. Yeah. And I had some great ideas that I felt they were great ideas that I wanted to impart. And I was like, actually, I want to be in that seat to make those decisions. I've always taken a lot of responsibility for myself, teams that I've worked with. And I felt that actually I could probably do that for myself. And that's just evolved and grown. But yeah, it kind of got to a point when I got to that level, because I'd worked so hard to get to that I kind of then felt, well, what's next in front of me? And I couldn't see it unless I did my own thing.
Good.
Yeah.
Where did, obviously there's probably something in the element, I imagine, of what you guys focus on, but where did LifeProven as a name come from? It's quite an unusual name for a consultancy.
It's interesting. So Adam and I, we kind of did a handshake around Green Park. We used to go for walks at lunchtime. So I was actually his line manager at the time, and we got talking about the industry and what was difficult. We shook hands on saying we're going to start our own business, and went to his flat in Horsham with a whiteboard, and we were like, what do we want the company to do? And the big thing was obviously sustainability. A lot was around people. Big thing that we had is that consultants make decisions based on just gut feel, or this is what I think you should do. But you've never done it yourself. You don't. It's never supported by data. It's not saying the data tells us we need to make this decision. So we kind of were like, we want to optimize the outcomes of the planet, people, life, but also have it, make sure it's proven, it's substantiated. And that's kind of been the bottom line to how we bolted the business together. And we felt that if you created buildings that started with people and focused on what life was about, then, and we could substantiate it, people would make those decisions to say, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Good. So very last question, Jordan, I always ask people is who was your, would you say, your best boss or mentor in your career?
It's a really good question. I'd say I've taken elements of some really key people that I've worked with, and firstly that would be Daniel Rowe from Jackson Rowe, chairman there. He kind of showed me what being a value-led consultant was about, and he had some sayings that I often say to myself now, like check the contract, focus on quality, like these things that, and I even say that to my team now is don't ask me a question if you read the contract. No, read the contract. And grounded me in some really good principles. Bob Herndon was a MD of mine, still work with him now, and he supports us in LifeProven, which is an odd role reversal, but it's pretty good. But client management from him has always been impeccable, and I think I've always seen that. Very considered person and very grounded in how he conducts himself. And probably lastly, Gavin Gleave at F3 Group. I saw him in the boardroom, and very tough CEO, very effective CEO, and I kind of looked at him and he showed me what running a real business looked like, and that kind of inspired me to think I could do that and I want to do that. So I'd say across those three have been the kind of elements of each that have really worked to use. Yeah.
Good. Jordan, thank you for your time today. Really
thank you very much.
It.
Yeah, no, real pleasure to be on. Thank you.
I hope you're going to have continued success at LifeProven and get to that 40, 50 number. Maybe we'll get you back in a couple of years' time and see where you've got to.
Maybe with your help, I will.
Yeah. Excellent.
Top man.
To me.
Thank you,
Jordan.
Cheers.